This is a deep tragedy. It's like losing all your brothers, your cousins, and your best friends all at once. There has to be a time of grieving, and it's essential that we grieve.
A wise woman, the grieving continues in Saskatchewan, and for anyone who's, has a heart for that town of Humboldt, the province of Saskatchewan. Our very own Greg Harper was in Saskatchewan last week for a few days, and we're here to reflect on your time there. Greg, I want to know where you visited exactly, and was the mood in those different areas different?
Yeah, it's interesting. First off, it was obviously a tough situation to go into, right? But it was also very uplifting to see the strength, from so many people. So I stayed in Saskatoon. The hospital was nearby. That's, of course, where the victims are. We also visited Tisdale, Humboldt, and Nipawin. Now, Humboldt, I was pleasantly surprised just on the strength and just the messages of support, and people were. I thought people were really positive. I was quite taken by it. Tisdale was. I just felt like this is a dark place right now, and I talked to the fire chief on the phone, and he was quick with me, and I could tell, he's still dealing with this. I talked to the mayor of Tisdale as well, and he was, very glum. And then I found out later there was some misinformation out there. We went to Nipawin, and I talked to the chief administrative officer there, and he said, I just want to clear this up. There's been lots of reports that the volunteer firefighters from Nipawin were first to arrive at the scene, when in fact it was the firefighters from Tisdale that arrived there to that horrific scene, realized what they were up against, and then called in resources from Nipawin. So that may explain why they're having a tough time in Tisdale, that's for sure.
Well, this was one of the most compelling pieces. When we watched your reporting, you went to the actual scene, got both perspectives of the bus and the truck and that devastating crash. How did this change your perspective on this story, and how humbling was it to be there?
Well, I drove both routes, and when I did that, things start to pop in my head. I'm just trying to figure out what may have happened, right? And anything, obviously, we're thinking about is speculation until this results from this investigation are done. But I traveled both routes, and I got to see from Glenn Dorkson, the bus driver, his perspective. He passed away in the crash as well. There's no stop sign for him. It's a 100-kilometer-an-hour speed limit, and there's trees. Would have been to his right. So he can't see if there's a vehicle that may be looking like it's not going to stop. We then went westbound, the direction that the driver of the transport truck was heading. And it's clear. There's a sign saying slow down. There's another sign saying stop sign ahead. And then there's the stop sign. I stopped at the stop sign, and I looked left, center, right, and the visibility is great. And it was at the time of the accident as well. It wasn't snowing. It was around 5 p.m. So what happened? Don't know. And it really hit me towards the end of Wednesday, when I was filing my story for Toronto, when I was doing my stand-up there at the accident scene. I mean, you could smell the fuel saturated in the ground. There's all these flowers there, candles, hockey sticks, messages, and I was explaining what I'm seeing behind me, and it was starting to hit me, And there was all these people showing up, including the aunt of the athletic therapist who passed away. She informed us that that indeed had happened, so we were also reacting to that. That was tough to walk up to her, and she spoke to us, and she was in shock, of course. It was just a tough time.
Greg, how easy or difficult was it to get people who are in such an incredible state of grieving to talk to you, the media?
It's tough. That's the uncomfortable part of our job, because there's a part of you that just wants to leave them alone, but it's our job too to try and talk to people. And for the aunt, I think that was a bit of relief. She wanted to talk. It's a chance for her to talk about her niece, right? But it's tough. You're in there in a tough situation, and you have to respect what everyone is going through. Some are handling it better than others.
You had a chance to witness the sense of hope, because with any tragedy, I think Boston strong, I think Vegas strong, and now we see Humboldt strong, that the tragedies almost trigger a form of triumph. And with the messages of support outside, we see it, but firsthand, you saw it on the ground. How did that community rally together and that sense of hope? How strong is that in Humboldt?
very strong. Spoke to the mayor of Humboldt, and he was just blown away by the outpouring of support. He mentioned, companies are offering pallets of water, just doing anything they can to help the residents. You're seeing shots we got when we were in I'm going to call it their downtown area. Storefront windows with messages like that. There were jerseys and T-shirts hanging from storefront windows, hockey sticks outside of people's homes as well. Just a town that's trying to come together in this difficult time.
Greg, I mentioned a moment ago, you, the media, but you're also a dad. So do you have any personal reflections on what you experienced while you were in Saskatchewan?
It's just, you say that, it's just so tough. I mean, in Humboldt, we went to the press conference that the school officials were holding, and the director of the Horizon School Division, it's called, you could just see it in his eyes. I mean, he had a player living at his home, right? And that player died in the bus. And he's trying to get through this press conference. And I mean, you're a parent too. You will be one day. I mean, it's just, there are no words. What do you say to that?
Well, you put together some powerful visuals to capture the sentiment, and even you sharing this is very compelling. I mean, the GoFundMe page, $11.6 million and counting. They're still looking at how they will support the families. I appreciate you giving us a personal perspective, Greg.
It was a tough experience, but they'll be okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Greg.
Greg Harper on the Humboldt Strong initiative. We'll take a break, watch this, and much more coming up on this Monday morning.